Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rucha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is The Great Transition of Power. Now this lesson comes to inspiration of a video I was watching earlier with the up and coming elder Awarum from the Birmingham camp, the head of the Birmingham camp, and the video that he was doing with another brother here called The Death of a Dynasty. And like Elder Pastor says, those titles always grab you. And when I saw that, I clicked on it. I was watching the video. I'm not sure exactly where. It was in the beginning of the video somewhere where he mentioned a transition, and I forget exactly how he put it, but pretty much what he was speaking about was a transition of Esau's empire or his kingdom or his dynasty to Yahushai, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Wa Yasha'Allah. And when it got to that point, I had to pause it, and because a bunch of thoughts started coming to mind, scriptures. So I started writing them down, looking through, searching, trying to, put a lesson together. And eventually, once I put some precepts together, the Spirit gave me the title, The Great Transition of Power. So here we are. Now we are at the point of a great transition, or what they call a tipping point. All right, just bear with me 1 second. Now, whenever you are pouring something, right? Whenever you pour something, you have to tip it until the desired position where the liquid is about to get to the rim, and that way, depending on what you're pouring it into, you can either pour it fast or pour it slow. Once it gets to the lip, that's the tipping point, when it's about to spill over. Now, tipping point, the point at which a series of small changes or incidents become significant enough to cause a larger, more important change. So we're at the tipping point, or the transition point, of this American empire run by the Edomites, to go down, and for our kingdom to come up, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai / our kingdom, Yasha'Allah. Because all nations are waiting in the wings. I got, a little something I want to read to y'all. But all nations are waiting in the wing. All of these nations that became financially strong from America, and for selling their goods here in America, as we read in Revelation, the 18th chapter. As when this place is destroyed, they're going to be crying, complaining, hooting and hollering, not because America is destroyed because they feel any sympathy for America, but because their money-making, venture, for lack of better words, was decimated, was destroyed, was annihilated. So now they have to figure out, because they're thinking conventional way that the world's going to continue on, so now we have to pick up the pieces and continue. So now they have to try to figure out what's going to be their next step, to keep their economy afloat, their nation afloat, so on and so forth. And that's when reality is going to hit them in the face, beginning with their elite, and they're going to be grabbed up, put in chains, and go into captivity. And their first order of business will be, one group of heathens will be walking around looking for dead bodies and putting signs up, and then the next crop of slaves are going to come behind and start digging and start burying those bodies. They said it's going to be continual employment. There's not going to be any unemployment, long unemployment lines. These nations standing in the lines of welfare lines and waiting for their EBT, or their SNAP benefits to kick in so that they can buy. No, there's going to be continual employment. All right. So we're at the tipping point of a great transition of power. Right. So I looked up the word transition. It says the process or a period of changing from one state or condition to another. You know, and Elder Abba Bivens years ago wrote a book called A Change is Coming, or A Change of Worlds. I believe it was A Change of Worlds. I'm pretty sure if I type it in, it should come up. I believe it's A Change of Worlds or something along those lines. And pretty much what it is like the meme, I guess you could say, we got here: change just ahead. And it means just that, a change or a transition of power. Now, when we go to, before we get this precept, let me read this real quick. Transfer of power. It says transfer of power, a process by which the control of a country is taken from one person or group and given to another. But pretty much it's going to be a transition of world power, because it's not just going to be one country or one continent or one hemisphere. It's going to be the whole entire planet Earth given into the hands of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai / the Israelites. Now, before I get the first precept, matter of fact, let me just pull it up. It just came to me a little while ago, so let me just pull that up. This is a book which I put in the description box. I didn't read the whole book. I kind of skimmed through and I ran across this part here, and I thought it was edifying for the lesson, because this is the common thought of everyone in the world now that they see in America's coming down. Every time an empire goes down, you have nations on the sidelines licking their chops like Honest Abe Honeycutt, waiting to be the next in line, tap dancing, looking, scheming, looking for the loopholes, for the angles, and how to get in there. So it says power, but the thing is that what they don't realize is that Yahushai's kingdom is next. That's why it calls him Lord of Lords and King of Kings. He's coming to take down all empires, all dynasties, all rule, all power, all authority. And it's all going to be given into his hand. And all knees will bow down to Yahushua and worship him, contrary to popular belief. Power transition in the 21st century. This comes from a book called Global Power Transitions and Implications. This is page 177. Here it's page 8. I don't know how they numbered that. I put this in the description box for those brothers that may want to read. I don't know if there's anything else good in here. Like I said, I didn't read it. I just skimmed through and ran across this, and I said, you know what? Let's go. The 21st century is witnessing a new round of global leadership transition. A recent report commissioned by the National Intelligence Committee states, by 2030, this is what they're pushing for, Agenda 2030. It was Agenda 2020, now it's Agenda 2030. No country, whether the United States, China, or any other large country, will be a hegemonic power. This seems to be the understatement of the inevitable, irreversible, and terminal decline of the United States as an international hegemon. Come on, man. And the hegemon is pretty much like a country that rules over other countries, sort of like a bully. Let's look up the word hegemon. It says something such as a political state having dominant influence or authority over others. And that's America took the place of who? England, because at one time England was the world superpower. How do we know that? Well, though you had other European countries that were ruling back then. Yes. But who had the world reserve currency status? The British pound, which America took in 1944, 1945 during the Bretton Woods, conference, where the U.S. dollar became the dominant world reserve currency. Prior to the British pound, it was the Dutch. I forget what the name of the Dutch currency was called, but the Dutch, whatever it was called, that was the dominant dollar or the dominant currency at the time, until the British pound came into power and took them down. I'm not sure, I forget what year that was. I'm not sure if it was in the 1600s or so, or 1700s. But that's how it went down. So the way that we know that the British pound was the that Britain was the dominant power at the time was because their currency was the world reserve currency, where you had to trade in your dollars of whatever denomination they were from whatever country to, the British pound in order to make any type of trade where they had influence or power. Okay, the Dutch guilder, the water. Much appreciated. The Dutch Guilder, that's right. I couldn't remember the name, but that's what it was called. The Dutch Guilder. Then it went to the British Pound. Then it went to, in 1944, 1945, it went to the U.S. dollar. FRN, which is an abbreviation for Federal Reserve Note. All right? So, hegemon, something such as a political state having dominant influence or authority over others. One possessing a hegemony. These were the periods in which England and then America filled the role of hegemon. Yeah, because they control it how? By way of the economics. Let's go real quick to, is that Isaiah 14 I'm thinking about? It was a precept that just came to mind. I'm not sure if it was Isaiah 14. Deutschmark in Germany, that's right. They had a Deutschmark, but that wasn't really the world reserve currency. Then there was a precept that just came to mind. I got the other one, but there was another one that came to mind. Yeah, that's it. Isaiah 14. All right, so I just had to remember. So let's go, before we go to, let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 7. It says, Then answered I and said, this is Ezra asking the angel of the Lord, what's going to be the great transition? It says, what shall be the parting asunder of the times, or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? Because Ezra knew, the prophets knew that once these world empires fell, and the Messiah suffered and these empires fell, then the kingdom of heaven would come. Okay, but they didn't understand the time period. So it says, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. And this signified, when these two boys were born, that was pretty much the signification or the beginning of the end of the world. Even from way back then. Because eventually Esau would get, and the Edomites would get a foothold on the earth, where they would establish a great empire, a great dynasty, beginning with the Greeks, ending with the British, and then transferring that power over to America. You had the seven head, the beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns. That beast with 7 heads and 10 horns is the whole Edomite empire, so-called white empire, beginning with the Greeks. You had the Greeks, the Romans, the French, the Spanish, Germania Major, Germania Minor. You had Britain. Let me see. The Romans, the French. The Greeks, the Romans, the French, the Spanish, Germania Major, Germania Minor, and the British. Those are the 7. And out of the 7 heads came one more head, which was the 8th head, which is America. And this is where we're at in prophecy. We're not at the beginning of the head of America, because that happened during the Renaissance, but we're at the end of the 8th head, because it says that once that 8th head came into power, then it would go into perdition, meaning destruction, because America was set up as a symbol of what it is to be wicked, to show the world the penalty for being wicked when the Lord destroys them. So they were set up as as it was set up for many reasons, but it was set up as a punishment to us, and it was also set up as a beacon to the world to show them what it is to be wicked when the Lord destroys them and leaves this place ablaze for a long period of time, and a monument for what it is to be wicked, just like Sodom and Gomorrah and the other 3 cities were set up. Yeah, they were backed by gold, but then eventually the Deutschmark, they started devaluing it, and eventually it started becoming toilet tissue too. And that's why it crashed. All right, so it says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So we know by scripture that once the Edomites would be in power, that they would usher in the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, because Yahushua is an Israelite. He's from the tribe of Judah. All right? So this is why these devils don't want anyone to know who the Edomites are. That's why when you do a word search on Edom or Edomite or Esau, you're not going to get a whole lot of information except for a certain little history, biblical history of them. When you type in, even on YouTube, and you spell Edom or Esau wrong, they don't give you a correction because they don't want that word in existence. They spent countless hours and countless money and countless time and countless years on hiding all of this information. And they can't understand for the life of them how it's coming out, but it's because it's a spiritual thing, and Esau is a carnal man. He cannot attain to the things of the spirit because they are spiritually discerned. That's why when Yahushua asked Peter who he was, he said, thou art the anointed, the Messiah, the Son of the Most High. He said, blessed are you, Peter, for flesh and blood has not revealed this unto you, but my Father which is in heaven. So going from there to Isaiah 14:4, when we're out there in the streets, matter of fact, let's go to the 13th chapter, Isaiah 13:2. Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain. What is the banner? The Bible. What is the high mountain? A mountain in scriptures represents, it could either be a regular mountain or it could be a government. In this case, it's speaking about a government because you're exalting the banner, which is the Bible, upon the high mountain. So it's not just a mountain. It's not just a government. It's a high government. And that high government is what? America, which is what? Identified here in Isaiah as Babylon. In other places is identified as Babylon the Great. So this great government or this great mountain, we're supposed to exalt the banner or exalt the Bible because this is how the Most High is going to judge this place. And when you read the Bible, it tells you about this great transition of power that's going to take place. And all the things that led to it, from the beginning to the middle to the ending of times. Everything is all laid out in spades in the scriptures. And you can see it if the Spirit is working with you. It says, exalt the voice unto them. When you're exalting the voice unto someone, shake their hand. And shaking the hand, you're telling them off. And why is that? Because they have done a disservice to the nation of Israel, which are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. And all the Israelites around the world, wherever they may be, whatever they may look like, whose fathers and fathers, all the way back on their father's side, goes back to one of those, either so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American Indian, of Negro and Indian descent. All right? So you can understand, you have so-called white-looking people out there that have, fathers and fathers all the way back that were so-called black, but through the intermingling, the lighter skin came in. So you have Israelites out there that look like blonde hair, blue-eyed, so-called white people that are really Israelites. There was a video of this one woman. She looked like a straight-up white woman, and she said, I'm black. My father's black. And she showed a picture of her and her father together, and she looked just like her father, except she's just a lighted, she looks like a so-called white woman. She has the same shaped face, same shaped nose, same eyes, everything, except for the color difference. She's just lighter. But the ignorance of Jake out here, so-called Negroes or so-called Latinos or so-called Native American Indians, they look at a person like that and say, no, you're a white girl. No, her father is a black man, so-called black man. So she is a so-called black woman. It goes by the genes. It goes by the sperm, by the seed, the semen. Doesn't matter what earth it was planted in. So when we go out there and lift the Bible upon the high mountain of America, exalt the voice unto them and shake their hand, this is all done for what? That they may go into the gates of the nobles. Because eventually they're going to have to make moves. on doing something about this truth, because it's starting to scare the bejesus out of them. You know? And that's why you got your vocab Malones and your other, flunkies, lesser luminaries that are trying to stop this word by casting doubt and gaslighting with their bullshit and their questions. Well, how do you know you really are an Israelite? Well, the curses really don't fit that. That was really talking about the Babylonian Empire. So my question would be to him all right, so let's go to Isaiah 45. I'm sorry, Deuteronomy 28:45, where it says that these curses shall be upon you and your seed forever. So what does that mean? Well, not talking about America. I didn't ask you all of that. I asked you, what does that scripture mean? And he ain't going to be able to answer, because if he answers it truthfully, that means that anywhere that the Israelites would be until the Lord removed the curses, they would suffer the things written in that book, that chapter of Deuteronomy 28 and others. So that is a sure way to know who the people of the Most High are, who the Israelites are. So let's go now from there. Let's go to the first precept I have in the spiritual arsenal of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, which is the great transition of power scripture. 10 and 8, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit. You could put here so-called white man. How did they get the world? Unrighteous dealings, injuries, riches got by deceit, or what they call ill-gotten gains. So because of these things, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. The word translate, transition, same thing, across. We read the word transition, and it said the process or a period of changing from one state or condition to another. So these international banking families, Edomites, so-called white people that rule the world, that are living it up, that are living lovely, that are worth hundreds of trillions of dollars, they're going to lose all of that wealth, because that wealth is going to be transferred back to us, because there is no way to make good on any type of reparations to so-called Negroes, Latinos, or Native American Indians. There's no dollar amount that can make that right. You talking about generations of atrocities. You talking about generations of land theft, generations of wealth theft. That cannot be made right with a dollar amount, given a currency that is being devalued by the day. So the restitution is going to be when the Lord comes back, takes his devil down, puts his back on top, and then everything that they have be turned back over to us. A great transfer of wealth, a great transfer of power. All right? Yep, and that's it right there. The brother posted it up. That's the 18th verse, Job 20 and 18. That which he labored for shall he restore it. When it says labor, it's talking about the things that he robbed, because you got to remember that these devils didn't, the so-called North American Indians, the tribe of Gad, the tribe of Reuben, so-called Seminole Indians, the tribe of Issachar, so-called Mexicans, and the rest of the tribes that were here, they didn't just hand the land over. They fought to the bitter end. So they had to labor to get this. So that which you labor for, let's just look up the word labor. Let's see what it says. Your guy, earnings, gain, product of labor. Right. So this is the gain that they got in the product of labor, which is what? Their constant marauding, constant stealing, constant raids, constant moving people, the Israelites out of their land, taking over their land, taking over their riches, putting them in captivity, putting them on reservation camps, so on and so forth. And the rest of the tribes, I'm just speaking on that right now. So that which he labor for shall he restore. The word restore means to give back. So let's look up the word restore. The word restore is shawab, which the word shawab means to return. All right? To return. Just bear with me 1 second. I want to get something else. Something. Nah, that ain't gonna do it either. Let's try this. All right, so it says, that which ye labor for for that which ye labor for shall he restore, and shall not swallow it down. Meaning that they're not going to be able to enjoy it, because it said that when they're about to sit down and when they're about to eat, the Lord is going to pour out the fury of his wrath upon them. It says, according to his substance. What is his substance? Substance is the things that they have, their goods. What is their substance like? World status. They're liquid. They're worth hundreds of trillions of dollars, multiple hundreds of trillions of dollars, 350 trillion plus. They have everything from gold to silver to precious stones to lands, castles, everything. You name it, they took it all. So the word is chayal, strength, might, efficiency, wealth, army. So everything that they have, right? Let's go back. So according to his substance shall the restitution be. So they have to give up everything, including putting themselves into captivity, slavery under us, in order for them to make it right, to restore, to make it right. The word restitution is thamawarah, that which is exchanged. Exchange, substitute, recompense. What is recompense? Payback. Compensation. You looking for some goddamn paper FRM dollars for reparations so you can go buy some goddamn Jordans or some Nikes or some fucking cars and whatever, spend it on bad liquor and Swisher Sweets and whatever the hell they smoking out there now, when we're getting ready to get a restitution of the whole entire planet, the whole entire world. Liquid stuff. I'm talking about, you got your guns and you got your butter. Now, what are the guns? You're talking about land, real wealth, not no goddamn 10-karat gold necklace that you buy, which they're ripping you off for. Rolex ain't gonna have shit on the things that we're gonna have in the kingdom of heaven. The most luxurious car, the most luxurious clothing, the most luxurious pieces of jewelry and smells out there, colognes and perfumes and all that. They're not gonna have anything on what's gonna be offered in the kingdom of heaven. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the compensation that the Lord is going to give us, which is going to include all of their substance and them. Read Isaiah the 60th chapter. It goes into that whole thing. And there's many chapters that go into that. And the very first ones of them that are going to go into captivity and slavery and serve us are the elite, the kings. That's a part of the restitution. That's a part of truly being blessed. And I really didn't fully understand that until Elder Apostle broke it down. Because in order to truly be blessed, you have to have slaves. You have to have servants, somebody to serve you. That's a true blessing. So let's go to Psalms 149. We could read this. It's a short read. Verse 5. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Who are the saints? The Israelites. What is the glory? The glory is the kingdom of heaven. Why are we going to be joyful? Because we're going to have everything. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. You're not singing aloud upon your bed and having a good time if you have to get up the next day to go to work. Let the high praises of the Most High be in their mouth, which is the word of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and a two-edged sword in their hand, which is a killing instrument. It says to what? Execute vengeance upon the heathen, the nations. These devils talking about, everybody's going to be saved. No. The nations are going into captivity, slavery. That is not salvation. It says, and punishments upon the people, because they're going to be punished for what they've done. According to the substance shall the restitution be. It says to bind their what? Kings, meaning they're high ones. With what? With chains. You know how they like to lock so-called black people and Latino people and Native American Indian people up? They like to put the cuffs on, around the waist. Cut your hands cuffed to your waist. Your weight, a fucking chain around your waist that's connected to the some handcuffs or manacles or feet cuff or whatever the hell they call them on your feet, shackles. That's what you're going. That's going to be your new source of jewelry. Yokes of iron masks, all of that shit. Just go back and research all the history of what you did to our people in captivity since you came to the shores of America back in 1492 to the present, and that's what you got to look forward to. And that's the only way that you'll be able to pay back these atrocities that have been done to our people, which was a direct punishment from the Most High, but that's the only way that restitution could be had. You sodomize our sons, you turn them into little homos. You call yourself Christians, and in the Bible it tells you that that's against the laws of the Most High. But you turned them out. You committed adultery with the women by raping them, women that had husbands. So you got a lot to pay for, man. A lot. And they're nobles with fetters of iron. Your nobles are what? The people that are the upper crust. The bourgeoisie, the bougie people, the hoi polloi. You got to pay, man. Chains and fetters of iron. It says to execute upon them what? The judgment written. Dishonor have all his saints. Praise ye the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Right. So we're at the transition of power as we read here. The kingdom is translated from one people to another. Now when we go to Psalms, the 75th chapter, right? In the 5th verse, it says, lift not up your horn on high, speak not with a stiff neck. Your horn represents power. Don't lift your horn up on high and speak not with a stiff neck. That represents arrogancy, pride. For promotion, which means what? Going up that ladder of success, so to speak, cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south, because you don't vote yourself into it. Empires are taken. They are lost and taken. People don't vote as to who's going to be the next ruler. They are taken. King of the mountain, as they call it. It says, but the Most High is the judge. And the reason why empires come and empires go is because the Most High set them and established them up for a certain period of time, an age. And once that age is up, they either go down right away or they start diminishing. Economically, militarily, socially, so on and so forth. As we see the case with America, Babylon the Great. It says, but the Most High is the judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another. So we're in the great transition of power. And what's happening is righteousness is being established on the planet Earth. Because the next kingdom that's coming is going to be established upon better principles. And the principles that they're going to be established upon are the righteous principles of the Bible. The words, the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. When we go to 2 Peter 3 and 13, which the Apostle Peter was quoting from Isaiah, it says, nevertheless, we, matter of fact, it started at 12, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of the Most High. Why? Because the day of the Most High is bringing wrath upon these nations and bringing them down to establish his son's kingdom / our kingdom, because we are joint heirs with him. Wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved. The heavens is speaking about the rulerships of these nations, especially here in America. It says, shall be dissolved because the elements shall, it says, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, because that's going to be the great judgment, the second death, which is by thermonuclear destruction. America, Babylon the Great, will be totally annihilated by the missiles and by the lasers from the chariots. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth where what? wherein dwelleth righteousness. Now, where does righteousness dwell? It dwells within the scriptures, the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, which make a man perfect, which make a man righteous. But we know that we can achieve the level of perfection that the scriptures require of us, because we are imperfect creatures in an imperfect world, in imperfect bodies, trying to achieve perfection. So the only thing we could do is, take in the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that was given to us, and try to live the best life that we can live until our change comes, when Yahushua comes back to change these vile bodies. And once these vile bodies are changed, that means that our minds will be changed. And we will take the stony heart taken out, the fleshy heart put in, and then the laws inserted for the ultimate update. And then once that's complete, you have a brand new creature. And that brand new creature is going to be an extraterrestrial being on the planet Earth that's going to be righteous. It's going to be like Judge Dredd, but without all the kinks, without eating goddamn rat burgers. Without them flaws and kinks. Because that's pretty much what Judge Dredd pretty much was. Like an extraterrestrial with extra human power. And what was he doing? Enforcing the laws. But they were doing it on the left-hand side with Esau, but the Lord is going to do it on the right-hand side. And what we're going through right now is the training of what it's going to be like in the kingdom of heaven. Because, let's go to Isaiah chapter 9. Our leader, Yahushua, under the Most High Yahweh, he's going to be established, and everything is going to be upon his shoulders. We're going to be the joint heirs with him. Lord's will we make it out of here. Right? So it says, for Isaiah 96, for unto us a child is born, Yahushua, unto us a son is given, Yahushua, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. So what we're going through right now is a rigorous training of how to be, or how to become, judges of the earth. Let's go real quick before we read on. Let's go to Matthew 19. This is what Yahushua told his disciples, beginning with the Apostle Peter. The disciples' reward. Matthew 19:27. And answered Peter and said unto him, behold, we have forsaken all and followed thee. What shall we have therefore? And which is a legitimate question. If we're sacrificing everything, we're sacrificing our lives, our families, whatever this world has to offer, careers or whatever, right? What is going to be the reward for that? And this is what Yahushua said. And Yahushua said unto them, verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, meaning in the reincarnation, when the Son of Man shall sit on the throne of his glory in the kingdom of heaven, you also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So the Lord is establishing his government by building up his men, giving them the right things to do, because we're going to be the ultimate judges on the planet Earth underneath Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All nations are going to come to us. Let's go to Micah chapter 4. And this is beautiful, man. Because we're going through that trend. Yeah, we're going through the hard times, the ups and downs, the sicknesses, the ailments, the problems, the mental torture, and people messing with us, and this, that, and the other, going through whatever we're going through. But these are the training grounds, the spiritual training grounds the Lord is bringing us through. Because we have to, in order to be a world ruler, you can't just be some sucker off the street. You can't be no grimy individual off the street. You can't be somebody that's just a slacker. It takes a lot of grooming to build up a world leader. And this is what the Spirit of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua has us going through. Don't worry if we can't get it right now. This is the rehearsal. When the kingdom of heaven comes and our bodies are changed, our minds are changed, the stony heart taken out, the fleshy heart put in, and then when the final analysis or the final part comes, which is the insertion of the laws, which will make the perfect creature, we're going to have everything we need. We're just going through the training ground right now. In any battle that you have to go through a training ground. Anything you get into, whether you racing, whether you track and field, whether you playing football, basketball, baseball, whatever the case may be, you have to go through training. And the training isn't always pleasurable. But afterwards, when you see the fruits of the benefits of it, you're like, damn, I'm glad I went through that. Because now look at the endurance I have now. Look at the abilities I have. Because I took it serious. But it all boils down to who the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai chooses. Because he will put that spirit in the elect to have that resolve in themselves to continue on no matter what. So Micah 4:1 it says, but in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai shall be established in the top of the mountains, because the mountain of the Lord is who? Yahushai, and the governing body of the nation, of the men of the nation of Israel. And then the other mountains is going to be established above all other mountains. That's how we know that those small hats that claim to be us are not us, because they've been established for over 70 years and nobody's fleeing to them. Everybody's running away from them. Nobody's looking to them to be established on the planet Earth. But the Lord said that when he establishes his government, all nations are going to flow to it. All nations are going to be in subjection to it. It says, and it shall be exalted above the hills, meaning the smaller governments, and people shall flow unto it. Ain't nobody flowing to them. They're flowing away from them. Why? Because of the injustices that they're suffering under them. The world rulers, international banking families are small hats. And look what they're doing to the world. Straight up injustice. When the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. It says, and many nations shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, meaning the government of the Lord, and to the house of the power of Jacob for what? And he will teach us of his ways. Why? Because we're going to be set up and established as the judges of the earth, to lead the people in the right direction that they're supposed to go in. Right? It says, and we will walk in his paths, for the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So what you see going on right now is the training grounds. The Lord establishing his future leaders. And he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off. Why? Because of the wickedness that they've done to us. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares. A sword is a weapon of war. A plowshare is an agricultural instrument. It says, and their spears, same thing, into pruning hooks. Why? Because they're going to go into captivity, slavery. Then will truly be blessed. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And we know that going more than 70 years, the small hats have been established, and there's still wars in the world. That's how we know that they're not the people. Because if they were, then all of this would be established. So it says, but they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts hath spoken it. Yeah, because once the kingdom is established, there ain't going to be no more wars. There ain't going to be no more injustices. There's going to be ass whippings to these nations because of what they've done to us, but there's not going to be any more injustices. That's why it says that the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of the Most High. Because they know that once we're established, yeah, they're going to catch hell, but they know that they're going to get a fair shake. They know the difference between justice and wickedness. And they know that under this devil, they have not gotten a fair shake. It says, this is the point here. For all people will walk every one in the name of his God. What does this mean? That the other nations, not that they're going to be walking under Buddha, and they are walking under Vishnu, or any of them other false gods, Allah and all of that. No, they're going to be walking under their judge. Let's go real quick to the book of Obadiah. Right? Let's go to the last verse. It's 21, I believe. Right. And saviors shall come up on Mount Zion to what? To judge the mount of Esau. And the kingdom shall be the Lord. So we're going to be set up as the judges. Saviors. The word savior, Yeshai, which means to save. To save, be delivered. To be liberated, be saved, be delivered. Be victorious. To save from moral troubles. To give victory. So we're going to be established as the rulers of the planet. So the Lord said that, and Savior shall come up on Mount Zion, because the Lord is, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is building up future leaders. The 144,000 are part of the future leaders that are going to be the judges of the earth. And every Israelite man is going to be a priest in the kingdom of heaven. The Levitical order of the priest was set up as a temporary thing. When the kingdom comes in, all Israelite men will be and even when you go back to the law in Exodus, it said that we would be a kingdom of kings and priests. So every Israelite man will be a priest in the kingdom of heaven. And their slaves are going to be coming to them because they're going to be the judge. That's what it means about saviors. That's why it says here, Micah 4:5, for all people will walk everyone in the name of his God or in the name of his judge. Because when you go to that word God, and this is why it's important to look things up, it goes back to the word Allahayim, which is the plural of Allah. The word Allah means power, God, judge. As you see here, rulers, judges. Then you have divine ones, angels, gods. You have false gods. But you also have rulers and judges, magistrates. All right? So it says, and we will walk in the name of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, our power forever and ever. Did you read that, Elder Lahab? And we will walk in the name of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, our power forever and ever. Because we're going to rule and judge the mount of Esau. And there shall be none remaining of the house of Esau. So how in the hell are they going to rise up and take us back down after 1,000 years? All right. So now let's go from there. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 10 and 16. And this is why it's important to be trained. See, the problem with Jake is they don't like discipline. They lack discipline and they don't like discipline. When you don't like discipline and when you lack discipline, you're like a brute beast. You know? There's no rhyme or reason to you. That's why it says here in Ecclesiastes 10:16, woe to thee, or destruction to thee, O land, when thy king is a child, and thy princes eat in the morning, because they are not disciplined. They have not been trained how to be nobles. When you go to the Bereans were, it said that they were more noble than they of Thessalonica because they were brought up under nobility. And they were trained under tutors in the law and how to search things out. So we're being trained to be nobles. Let's go to the book of Galatians, chapter 4 and 1. It says, now I say that the heir, who's the heir? The heir would be a prince. Meaning one that's going to take over the throne one day from the king, right? So now I say that the heir, as long as he what? He is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all. Why? Because of his mentality. When I was a child, I thought as a child, I understood as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. Because women and children, they can be careless, but men cannot be careless, to take a line from the Godfather. And that's true. Because once a child got to a certain age, after he was nurtured by his mom, she gave him the titty milk, weaned him, cocked him, brought him up. When he got to a certain age, he came under the rule of his father. And whatever the father's business was, that was his business. And he was trained in that business, inside and out, every detail of it. So that when his father passed on, he would be in charge of the business that his father had, and he'll be able to pass on his business savvy to his children, so on and so forth. So we're being trained right now. But if you're a child, you don't differ from a slave, because you're both on the same level until you are trained in what it is to be noble or in nobility. It says, but it's under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the father, right? Because the tutors and the governors would teach him and train him what he needs to do. Okay, there's going to be times where you're going to be faced with economic woes, or you're going to be faced with hard decisions. You're going to be faced with certain judgments. What do you do in so and such a situation? If you only have 10,000, gold coins, and you have a debt of, 15,000 gold coins, what do you do in a situation like that? So they would train them. And the training is what? Knowing what's written in the book of instructions, which is the Bible, and how to apply those things, and how to maneuver and be able to judge when there is nothing in there, that says, okay, well, if somebody steals one of my shoes, what do I do? It sounds stupid, but not every single thing is written in the scripture. So sometimes you have to think outside the box based off of what you learn from the scriptures and make a decision or a righteous judgment based off of that. Give you an example. King Solomon, when the two women came before him, right? The one woman overlaid a baby, killed it. The other woman, was given the dead baby, and she was mad because the baby that was alive was really her baby, but the other bitch lied. So they both came before King Solomon, and King Solomon said that was a hard decision. So what he did was genius. It was Shakespeare. It was genius, right? He said, and he on the fly, boom, just like that. He said, okay, give me a sword. I'm gonna cut the baby in half. You take one half. You take the other. Now, is that written in the Bible? If one woman slays, she slayeth her baby by overlaying it, and the other woman gets her baby stolen and is given the slayeth baby, then what thou doeth is you get the sharp sword, the long sharp sword, and cutteth the baby in half and give one half to one and one half to the other. No. That was a decision he made in judgment based off of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai gave to him. You see? So, what was the word that we're looking for is tutors. Epitropos. Epi is among or in. So it says one to whose care or honor anything has been instructed. Right, because he'll do what? He'll train him, teach him. That's why when the kingdom of heaven is established, the law, statutes, and commandments are going to be put into our inward parts, where we're not going to have to teach each other, but we're going to be teaching the other nations. That's why I said that we're going to be their saviors or their God, their judges, their rulers. It says a curator, a guardian, a steward or manager of a household or of lands, overseer, one who has the care and tutelage of children, either where the father is dead, a guardian of minors, or where the father is still alive. Right. Because the child has to be trained. He has to be taught. And that teaching, you have to learn how to read. You have to learn how to write. You have to know what the instruction book says. There's a lot of details. That's why you go to these guys who teach the law, keep the commandments, the laws, the statutes. But they don't know what's contained in the law. They choke on the law. See? But in the kingdom of heaven, it's going to be already in us. So what the Lord is doing right now is he's training up his men to be future world leaders. Then you have the word governors. Let's look up the word governors. Oikonomos, which is house management. Oikos is house and nomos is management. The manager of a household or of household affairs, right? And that individual will do what? Like you have the movie Django, right? You had Stephen. You know, he was a demon, but he was like the house manager that would pretty much make sure everything was running properly. All of the slaves, you know, the ones that did the cooking, the ones that did this, the one that did all the different chores. He was the one in charge of overseeing all of that. He was a house manager. I hate to use that, you know, that example, but it's true. All right. So you have we're going through the rigorous trainings right now. It says, unto the time appointed of the Father. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. Right. Because we didn't know any better until the Lord woke us up. But when the fullness of the time was come, the Most High sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. And now that we receive the adoption of sons, we're going through the rigorous training of how to become the world leaders, the next world leaders. It says, and because you are sons, the Most High have sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of the Most High through Yahushua. Howbeit then, when you knew not the Most High, ye did service unto them which by nature are no gods. Right. So that's why we had to be retrained again. We had to unlearn what we learned and relearn the right way. All right. Now let's go from there to the book of Proverbs 31. And we're going to read a couple of verses there. It says, the words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. What, my son, and what, the son of my womb, and what, the son of my vows? Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings. Yeah. And that's why you would have to be trained to understand these things. Because if not, you're going to be like a Commodus. His father was trained, Marcus Aurelius, and he was a Stoic. He was, you know, very thorough, but his son was a total opposite. He was an Epicurean. You know, he was all about the pleasure, the sensual pleasures, because he didn't want to be trained like his father. You see? And that's the danger of having a prince that's supposed to be an heir that is unruly. That's why before Marcus Aurelius died, he wanted to give the kingdom over to Maximus, because he knew that Maximus commanded authority. You know, he was an excellent leader. He had those leadership qualities because he was trained in that fashion. All right. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink. Right. Because that corrupts. Lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. Right. There's a time for everything. Verse 8. Open thy mouth for the dumb in the cause of all such as are appointed to destruction. What does that mean? We will be judges. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. Because that's what we're set up to be. We're established to be judges, not to be Bible goons. All right, now let's go from there back to Ecclesiastes. Now we go to 10 and 17. So that goes into, let's read this again. Woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child, and thy princes eat in the morning, because they're not trained properly. So they're going to rule like beasts. And eventually what's going to happen? Decay. And the empire is going to fall. Because the people that are ruling were not trained in a noble way. They were not trained in a kingly way. All right. It says, blessed art thou, O land. Now the blessing comes when thy king is a son of nobles. Why? Because the nobles will train him up on how he should be, as we read of the tutors and governors in the book of Galatians 4. And the word for nobles is shar. which the word shar is prince. Prince, ruler, leader, chief, chieftain, official, captain, right? And these are men that were learnt and will train you up. And thy princess eat in due season, right? The prince, the one that was heir to the throne of the king, they eat in due season, not in the morning before time. They would eat in due season, meaning after everything is established, the business is taken care of. You know, now when they sit down to do certain things, the business of the kingdom is officiated. They're not waking up early in the morning, drinking all goddamn day, eating whatever the hell they wanted to eat, popping all kind of women, and not taking care of the affairs of the kingdom, because that's going to cause a straight up decay and decline. It says for strength and not for drunkenness. So that's the two examples. You have the ones that are not trained, and you have the ones that are trained. And the ones that are trained are beneficial for the kingdom of heaven. That's what we have the word, the scriptures in Ecclesiastes, the 10th chapter, which we were reading earlier, right? It says a wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. You see? As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. And seeing that the kingdom is going to be established to be righteous, the Lord said that thine officers shall be peace. Everything is going to be handled correctly. An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. The power of the earth is in the hands of the Lord, in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. And that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for the Lord to establish Yahweh Shai back on the throne so that we can, get back into power with our Lord Yahweh Shai. Now let's go from there to Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7. Because remember, it said that the princes, woe to you land when the princes eat in the morning. When the heir is not the son of nobles. Galatians 6 and 9. It says, and let us not be weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith. Why? Because right now we're going through the training. These are the training grounds, the proving grounds. Right? Now let's go from there. Let's go back to Micah chapter 4. Now verse 6. It says, in that day, saith the Lord, will I assemble her that halteth. And that's what's happening now. And will gather her that is driven out, and her that is afflicted. And that's why we're going through the building up of the tabernacles of David. King David didn't have no fools ruling with him, or officiating business with him. And I will make her that is halted a remnant, and her that was cast far off a strong nation. And what makes that strong nation? The mentality that they have, the discipline that they go through, understanding the law, statutes, and commandments. Wisdom is a defense. It says, and the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever. All right. So Esau is not going to take the Israelites back down after 1,000 years. And thou, O tower of the flock, which is who? The governing body. And these are the prophets also. The stronghold of the daughter of Zion. Unto thee shall it come, even the what? The first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. So that's what the Lord is establishing right now. His rulership, his kingdom, his men. Let's go to Revelation 20. Let me get ready to close it up. I got a few other precepts, but it's already an hour and 4 minutes, so probably end it here. Revelation 24, and I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. Why? Because this is the kingdom of heaven being established. You can't have no flunky sitting up on the throne. It has to be a well-established, well-trained individual. And the Lord set up the elect from the beginning as such. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua and for the word of the Most High, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Yahushua 1,000 years. And this is why Elder Lahab is confused, because he's wrestling with the scriptures, because he's getting the 1,000-year periods confused. It says, but the rest of the dead lived not again unto the 1,000 years were finished, just dealing with the other nations. Then this 1,000-year rule, the first 1,000 years is going to be, this is the first resurrection. And we just read that in Micah, the 4th chapter. The fourth chapter, the first dominion. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death, which are the missiles, have no power, but they shall be priests of the Most High and of Yahushua, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Right, so these are going to be the priests. And all men of Israel will be priests, but the elect are going to be the first ones to be delivered out of here and go into the kingdom. You know what? Let's go here to 1 Corinthians. This is a good one. 6th chapter, start at 1. And I think I'll leave it at this one, and I might get another. What is that? Yeah, I might get one more after this. 1 Corinthians 6:1. Dare any of you having a matter against another go to law before the unjust, and not before the saints, right, before the Roman government? Do ye not know that the what? The saints shall judge the world. See? It says, and if the world shall be judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Right, because we have to start somewhere. And the last precept I'll leave you with is, let's go to Micah 3 and 8. It says, but truly I am full of power by the Spirit of the Lord, and of judgment, and of might, to declare unto Jacob his transgression, and to Israel his sin. And this is the training ground, the proving grounds. You know, to let Jake know, look, you're going off. You got to get it right, or you're going to be destroyed. And this is part of that training. You know, so with that, this has been the great transition of power. I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.